Hello, welcome to another episode of Angela Shows You. Today I wanted to show how I make tote bags that have pockets in them. So we did a video about a month or so ago on just a regular plain old basic tote bag, and I enjoy making bags that have pockets in them, so I thought that I would show you how to make a tote bag with a pocket in it today. So we are going to go through right from pretty much start right through the end. So this is probably going to be a little bit of a longer episode, but I'm hoping that also by doing it step by step, this will give you a really good idea of how much time one of these bags makes. Now, keep in mind too that as you do these more frequently, they get a little bit easier and they take a little bit less time. And if you're going to be doing several bags, you can always batch cut them. You can do that. You can do up a stack of fabrics and, cut a couple at a time. I don't tend to cut probably more than like 2 bags at a time. I just find that the material, uh, it's less likely to shift and you just get a better, more accurate cut if you're only doing maybe like 4 or 6, maybe 8, really kind of depending. And I think part of it too is just kind of depend on what kind of cutter that you're using. Are you using scissors? Are you using a rotary cutter? And then of course your comfort level. So one bag needs 4 pieces of fabric, 2 for the exterior and 2 for the interior. And if your fabric is directional, then of course you just want to keep it in the back of your mind that you may not necessarily cut. You might want to cut them out. Just be careful when you're cutting any directional fabric. I know I had cut an apron and I was trying to cut 2 at one time. So I had my material folded, it was just folded in half. And of course, one apron was cut right side and the other side was cut upside down because it was directional fabric. And there was no getting around uh, there was no getting around that. I ended up trimming off a bunch of the fabric and I might have made a tote bag out of that fabric, because, you know, what are you going to do when you've got kind of and it was all cut out too. So the arms were cut out. So I had anyway. So what I've already gone ahead and done was I sewed the handles and the straps, and I sewed my this is the pocket, and I went ahead and I already sewed, but we're going to walk through the steps to do those as well. So my bags, I cut 17 by 17 inches. So I've already got my interior and my exterior. This is going to be my interior piece, and this is going to be piece that I put the pocket on. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to kind of want to figure out where it is that you want your pocket to be. How far up or down from the top of the bag do you want the pocket to be? Now, when you're making a pocket, what you're going to want to do, and what I did for this one, is this is going to actually be an exterior pocket. But what you're going to want to do is whatever size you want your pocket to be. This one is 6.5 inches wide, and I had cut it just about 6 inches tall, a little bit more than that. And then, so what I did when I had it was I folded it over once, but then I didn't want the raw edge to be showing, so I folded it over a second time. And then what I did was I sewed all the way around. So I did a stitch down the side. I went all the way down to the end, up and back around. So I've kind of got like one large rectangle as my stitch. And that way I have a nice finished edge for my pocket inside, and that'll look really nice. So then what you're going to want to kind of figure out is how far down from the top. Now remember, you're going to have a little bit of space at the top, as that's going to be seam. So what I tend to do is go down about 4 inches. So we're going to line the bag up with the top of, or the pocket. So I've got the top of the ruler is at the top of the fabric, and I'm going to use my 4-inch mark. So it's going to go right there, and I'm going to just pin it in place. Now I want to make sure that it's even, so I am going to just kind of slide the ruler over to the other side, and I'm going to make sure, and it's a little bit crooked, so we're going to just play with it just a little bit. There we go. Now that is even, and I'm gonna just go ahead and pin this side as well. So now we've got our pocket. Now, if you wanted to, you could also tuck in the sides, and then you don't have raw edges showing on the side of the pocket. So we will go ahead and we will do that. Fold them in just a touch. And we'll pin it so that our fold stays put. And depending on your comfort level, additionally, you could go right ahead and you could iron that, and then you would have a nice crisp seam to go along as you're sewing. So now what we're going to do, the first step when you're getting started, is we're going to sew that pocket in first. And I want to stay right as close to the edge of the pocket as possible. And we're going to go ahead and I'm going to back stitch a couple times on that, and then we are going to sew straight down. And when we get a little bit close to the edge, we're going to go ahead, we're going to leave our needle down, we're going to pivot, drop the presser foot back down, go straight across the bottom, to the next side, leaving the needle down. We're going to pivot, and we are going to come back up this side. Again, staying really close to the side there, and the reason for that is we want to have as much room inside the pocket, and the farther in you go, then of course the smaller the inside of the pocket would be. Straight up to the end, and then we're going to do a couple back stitches. When I do the pockets and the bags, I do like to do a couple stitches back and forth, just because, you know, if you've got your hand in and out of there, it really helps just to keep those nice and secure. So there we go. This is going to be one side of the inside of our bag, and now we have a pocket sewn into the interior of the bag. So now the next thing that you're going to want to do is take your other piece, your other interior piece, and you're going to lay that on top of the piece that you just sewed the pocket onto. Now, if you wanted, you could do 2 pockets if you wanted to. You could have a pocket on each side. You could do a pocket here and a pocket here. So you would repeat that same step on this piece of fabric and sew a pocket in on the other side. So, feeling this goes this way. All right. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to just pop a couple pins in this fabric so that it doesn't shift around on me while I'm sewing it. And what we're going to do is we are going to sew 3 sides of this all the way around. Okay, so I'm just popping in. I tend to do 2 pins on each side and then 2 pins along the bottom. So I've got pins here that are going to hold these 2 pieces of fabric in place, and we're going to just, now this is where I will go ahead and I will use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we are going to just go right along. We're going to sew down the side, down the bottom, and back up the other side, of course, leaving the top open because this is the top of the bag and we don't want to sew the top of the bag closed because then you won't be able to get in it. Okay, so now how I usually tell when I'm about a 1/4 inch or so from the bottom is I use the end of my presser foot, and when the end of the presser foot gets too close to the end of my fabric, that's about the time where I'm going to leave my needle down and I'm going to turn the direction I want to sew in, and I'm going to continue on. And now we're going to go straight along the bottom of the bag. Okay, now I've got my presser foot is just about to the end of the fabric again, so we're going to leave that the needle down, and we are going to come right up along the last side of the bag, and we are going to just sew straight up. All right, now we are at the top of the bag. We're gonna do a couple back stitches and then finish that off. So now we've got our interior of our bag is nearly complete. The only step left that will be to do the interior of the bag will be when we box our corners, and we will go ahead and do that in a moment. Now, the other thing that I want to do on this bag is I'm going to take one of my exterior pieces. Okay, one of my exterior pieces. Now, what I did was I kept a piece. I left a piece out. This is 7 inches tall. All right, this is 7 inches. and it's 17 inches wide because that's how wide my bag is. This is actually going to be an exterior pocket. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pin this in place because I definitely don't want this to move because this is on the outside of the bag. So we're going to pin this in place. All right. And then what we're going to do is we are going to sew this right on, and we want to sew this close to the edge. This is a little bit less than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then we're going to go right along the bottom. And again, as close to the edge as possible because we don't want these stitches to show on our finished product. So just as close to the edge as possible. Okay, now we're at the last side. We're pretty close to the edge again, and we're going to just sew right up to the top again. Back stitch just a 1 or 2 to hold that in place. Now the other thing that I want to do is I actually am going to sew. I'm going to make this into 2 pockets, so to speak. So what I want to do is I'm folding it in half, and I'm going to finger press just so that I know where my halfway mark is on the bag. And then we're going to just do a stitch right up that line right there. We're going to just start at the bottom. We'll go ahead and we'll back stitch, and we're going to just go straight up. Doing this will serve 2 purposes. Doing that serves 2 purposes. One is it will give the pocket a little bit extra stability. And then it just kind of separates a little bit. That way it doesn't like gape open. And if you wanted to, you could do this in thirds as well. What you could do is you would fold your bag over towards the center, and then you would fold the other side over towards the center as well. Like this. Same thing, kind of give a little bit of a finger press. You would have your bag done up in thirds, and then you would sew a stitch here and a stitch here, and you would have 3 smaller little exterior pockets. The other thing that you could do that I probably really should have done to finish that pocket off is like the other pocket, I probably should have folded the top in a little bit and just given that a nice seam instead of having raw edges. Okay, so now the next step is going to be to attach the straps. I cut these. This bag is actually going to be a gift, and the person that I made this bag for likes her straps to be a little bit longer. So these I actually cut at 20 inches long. So I tend to go in again about 4.5 inches from the edge. So we're just going to take our ruler. We're going to measure 4.5 inches from the edge, and we are going to pin that. And then we are going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to line my ruler up on this edge. I'm going to put the ruler at the 4.5, making sure that I don't twist the strap, and we're going to pin that down. Okay, so there's one strap, and then we're going to repeat that same process on the other exterior piece of our bag. We're going to go take our strap, put your raw side. We're going to find the 4.5 inch mark on a ruler. We're going to pop the strap there, pin it down. Then same thing. I'm going to come off the opposite side. You're going to take your strap, just kind of, what you don't want to do is you don't want to twist it. You don't want to twist the strap at all. You want it to be flat. Okay, so there we go. There's our strap. 4.5. All right, so now we've got our two straps. And a good way to also to tell if it's twisted or not is when it's laying down, you can tell, because it's going to lay flat. You're not going to have any twists in it. If it was twisted when you had this flat, it would have, you would tell it would have a twist in one of the sides. So now we know that we've got our straps flat. We are going to go right ahead and we are going to secure the straps on. Again, I want to go kind of close to the top, and I'm going to stitch forward and back and forward again, because I want, of course, these to be secure on the bag. The last thing that we want is to put something heavy in the bag and the strap comes off. That would be terrible. So same thing on the other strap. We're going to go forward. We're going to go back. And I go the whole, I do the whole strap. All right. So here we go. We've got our straps attached. We went forward, we went all the way back and forward again. So we've got a nice secure strap on here, handle, whatever you want to call it. All right. So next one. All right. Last. Okay. There we go. Now we've got our straps on our bag. Now, when I cut these straps, I cut my fabric to 3 inches wide. And then, like with all the other strips that we've done for everything else, we are going, what I did was with my iron, I took my 3-inch wide fabric, I folded it in half, I gave that a press. Then I opened it back up and I folded each side in on itself towards the center fold. I did not go all the way to that center crease. I went just before that center crease. So you take your fabric, okay, fold it in half, press it with your iron. Then you're going to take the side, you're going to fold it in towards that center, your center fold. So like if this was it, my center fold is there. You can see it just a little bit. Okay. And then I press all the way along, and then I go back on the other side. I take the other piece, I fold that in towards the center, press that. So then when you're done, when you've got all that pressed, you'll have your two edges, and then you fold all that back in half, and then you end up with a beautiful, you've got nice finished edges, and then you sew all the way down. I actually sew all the way down. I just sew across the edge and I go all the way back up the whole handle. Okay, so there's a lot of folding going on to make a strap. You're going to take your handle, strap, whatever you want to call it, fold it in half, fold one side in towards the half, fold the other side in towards the half, and then fold that back in half. And there you go. Then you would sew that, and that would be your handle strap. Okay, so these are just 3-inch squares that I had left over from another project that I made. All right, so now what we want to do, now we've got our straps sewn on to our bag. We're going to do the same thing that we just did with the interior. We're going to put those pieces right sides together. Keep those handles kind of tucked in a little bit. Okay. All right. Then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to pin this because I don't want this to go moving and shifting while I'm sewing. So on this one, I'm actually going to put 3 pins in on the side here. So I'm going to pin down the side. I'm going to pin the other side. Okay. Ow. All right. Try not to stab myself again. All right. We're going to give that a pin, and then I'm going to just pop a pin on the bottom as well. Okay. So now we've got our exterior pieces. That hurt. We've got our exterior pieces right sides together. Now we're going to do the same. We're going to use about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and we're going to just go right ahead and sew all the way those 3 sides. So now, because we've got a wider seam allowance here, so this pocket that we put down here at the bottom, we've got, it's over here. So this seam is outside, inside, however you want to look at it. It's on the outside of this seam. So when our bag is turned right side out, you're not going to see our seam where we attached that exterior pocket. That's why we sewed it as close to the edge as we could. It'll be hidden on our finished product. Okay. All right, last side. Okay. All right, so see, now we've got our exterior sewn. Now the next step is going to be to make our corners. Make sure I got all the pins out. Okay. So then your next step is going to be to create your corners. Now, keep in mind that we cut our fabric 17 inches tall. However big you make your corner, meaning that the inside of the bag will have that depth. However big you choose to do that, you will reduce the height of the bag just a little bit. So just keep that in mind, you know, that your finished bag won't be 17 inches tall anymore because we are creating a base of the bottom of the bag. So, you know, this is helpful if you're using this, you know, if you're using these bags for grocery shopping and you're putting, you know, cereal boxes or, you know, whatever in there, then the box of the corner just gives a nice base at the bottom of your bag. So I actually I use 2.5 inches as my general rule. I've made bigger bags and I've done 3-inch bottoms, but a 2.5-inch cut is actually going to give you a 5-inch bottom of the bag because you're cutting 2.5 inches out of one side of the bag. You have two sides of the bag, so you're doubling that. So what I do is I have this cute little ruler that I bought. They sell these at Walmart. I think I bought this at Joann's, but they sell them at Walmart. They sell them at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they sell them at Michael's. They might. Michael's does have a small sewing section. So what I'm going to do is I've got my ruler lined up. Might be nice if you could see, right? And I'm going to just, you know, any kind of marking pen. You're cutting this out, so you can use a regular pen if you wanted to. This is a, it's called Mark Be Gone. It's a fabric pen. The coloring goes away when when the fabric gets wet. So I'm gonna, so this little ruler is 2.5. So actually I said I was gonna do 2.5, right? So I'm going to do the whole thing. If you wanted 2 inches, this ruler has a line at the 1 inch and at the 2 inch, and then 1 inch and 2 inch this way too. So if you wanted a 2 inch, you would line this up at your corner and you would draw your mark to the 2 inch line. So you would mark at the 2 inch and you would mark it, and then you would come down, line your 2 inch up back at the bottom of the bag and draw your lines. And it's a little bit easier on the other side because then you could just draw. So since we've got our 2 inch, since we have I marked it to demonstrate. I'll just go ahead and use 2 inches for this. Okay, so here we've got 2-inch drawn. And then, of course, we want to do the same thing for the interior piece. So I got my edge lined up at the edge. I'm going to draw a line at the 2-inch mark. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to leave the 2-inch mark lining at the bottom of the bag. And I'm going to just line up with my corner mark and draw another line down. Then on the other side, take my 2-inch mark on the sides, and I'm going to just draw myself that little square. All right, so then the next thing you're going to do, you're going to cut those out. So just use the line that you just cut, or drew rather, and you're going to cut. You're going to cut that. Oh, I didn't go all the way. Okay. And you're going to just do that on all 4. You'll have 4 because you've got your interior and your exterior pieces. All right, last one. Okay. So now it's time to sew those corners. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your bag and you're going to open it up a little bit, and we've got that pocket there. So you want to just make sure on the exterior piece, if you're doing the exterior pocket, that you've got it flat. You don't want it all bunched up. And then you're going to pinch those so that you've got your, now what I like to do is I'm going to take one seam and I'm going to fold it, this one's just naturally folding that way. And then I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to fold it the opposite way. I feel like that just makes it lay a little bit flatter. So then we're going to, using the same 1/4-inch seam allowance, we're just going to sew that from one end to the other. Okay, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. Make sure that that pocket lays flat. We're going to pinch everything together. Just like that. We're going to sew that the next side. Whoops. Okay, so now we have a nice wide base for the bottom of our bag. All right. So then our next step is we need to repeat that for the interior corners. So we're going to just lay that down. Kind of give them, you know, a little bit of a pull or whatever. This one's just naturally, actually, those seams, they're just naturally falling where I want them to go. Same thing, 1/4 inch. Okay, last side, last corner rather, we're going to just take that, same thing. And you can always tell when you're doing this, you've got your seams lined up, and you can tell also because when you've got these seams, they kind of butt up against each other inside. So it's a easy way to tell that everything's lining up the way you want it to. Okay, so now last one, we're going to okay, so now we've got the interior, the exterior. We are almost done with this bag. So we're going to turn the interior piece right side out, and now what we're going to do is we're going to stick the interior piece inside the exterior piece. And I want, this is the side that has the pocket on it, and then on the exterior piece, the bottom, this one has the exterior pocket on it. So it's up to you if you want your interior and your exterior pockets to be on the same panel. Do you want your interior and your exterior pocket to be on opposite panels? If you're doing, this would be a non-issue. If you did an interior pocket on each panel, then it wouldn't matter. So I'm going to put my pocket on the opposite panel as the exterior pocket is. So we're going to just pop the interior inside the exterior. And then we are going to line that up, and you can either clip or pin, whichever you want. We don't want this moving around, so I am going to just pop a few pins in the bag. And very, very important, when you get to this step, you want to make sure that you leave yourself, as you're sewing, we're going to sew all the way around the rim of the bag, but you need to leave yourself a turn gap, because we have to turn this bag so that it's right sides out. So it's very important that you leave yourself an area to turn this so that it's right side out. So we've got our corners, and these are actually kind of naturally falling that way. It's rather convenient when it does that. Okay, and then this side, what I did was I lined these up first. You want to line these side seams up first, and then go ahead and do up the rest of that. All right, so we've got pins so that things don't shift around on us, because we're going to be going around. We'll be stopping, to kind of shift the material around a little bit. So We don't want anything to move. So I'm actually going to use from handle to handle on this side. I'm going to use this as my turn gap. So I am going to start stitching, and I'm going to use again the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to come just before the strap starts. So here's my strap and here's where my needle is. So I'm going to start stitching. It'll start stitching here and my strap is here. So I'm going to probably have about 3 stitches, maybe 4 stitches. And then of course we're going to back stitch. Okay. So now I can move that pin because I've got that. And we're just going to go all the way around the top of the bag. And of course you want to keep in mind where your pins are and move your pin because you don't want to sew over the pin. And I kind of put these up a little bit closer. If you leave them down far enough and your needle will bypass them, then you won't have to worry about it. Just take them out at the end. Like this one is down, I think, yeah, far enough that it's not going to interfere with where my needle was. But I like to take them out as I go. That way they're removed. All right, so now we're getting there. All right, so we're almost back. We started here, so we're going to finish right about where this last needle is. Okay, so I'm going to move that because I know where it is. All right, now I'm going to just... Okay, so now we had left ourselves a few inches of our turning gap. So now we're getting there. We're almost done with this tote bag. Sorry. Okay, so now the second to last step is we're going to turn our bag right side out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the turn gap. I'm going to put my hand in there, and I just want to come out to my corners, and I'm just going to use my fingers, and I'm going to kind of poke the corners out a little bit. The interior was actually a lot better. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to tuck the lining, the inside, into the inside of the bag. Just like that. Now, the last step is going to be, well, kind of 2 things left to do. So what you're going to want to do is you've got your turn area here. You can You can iron this if you want, but you want to fold the fabric in. I'm just going to kind of finger press a little bit. All right. I'll pop a pin right there. So that's our turn gap. And then you just want to, sometimes you have to, you know, work it a little bit. But our last step, literally, is to do our final top stitch around the perimeter of the bag. Of course, you want to keep the handles out. You'll do your top stitch along the perimeter and the bag will be done then. So here we've got, oh, wrong side. Okay, so this is the side that had our little exterior pocket. And you can see that by sewing, I'll trim off. I've got some excess little pieces here. So I'll just go ahead and I'll trim those. But by sewing that on as close to the edge as possible, now you can't even see that original stitch because we hid that when we went back around when we sewed our pieces together. So I am going to end this video here. The last step, like I said, is to go ahead and do a top stitch. That, of course, gives it a nice finished look, but you need to do it anyway because you want to, you have to close up your turn gap. So then that is it. That's the final product. Then what I'll do is, like I said, I'll go through, I have just some little threads. So I'll go through and I'll just trim off any little threads that I see. And because I'm giving this as a gift, I will go ahead and I'll probably just give it a little bit of a press so it's nice and crisp looking. But that's it. That's our tote bag with our pocket on the inside. So I hope that you found this helpful. I know this is a longer video, but I really wanted to go ahead and do a complete step-by-step demonstrating. I hope that you find this easy. I think that these are incredibly easy to make. They're a great item. They make a great gift. They're very practical. We all need bags. I mean, so many stores these days aren't, at least where I live in New York, so many stores don't give out bags when you go shopping. Walmart doesn't give bags out where I go. Most of our grocery stores don't. If you shop at Aldi's, they've never done bags anyway. So, and then of course, just if you're going shopping, if you're going to the gym, if you're going, maybe you're just doing a quick little overnight. So these are just some examples, where you might need a tote bag. If you're going on vacation, if you're going to the beach, you could pick out a beachy material, and then you've got a bag. You can throw your, a book in there, some sunscreen, etc. So tote bags are always a great item. These are nice because this is actually, I made these out of 100% cotton. So these can be thrown right into the washing machine and they can be dried. And if they get all wrinkly, quick little iron, and they are good to go for next time. So I hope that you found this helpful and informative, and I hope that you will make this. If you do, let me know how it went, and I hope that I have earned your trust today, and I hope that you will consider subscribing to Angela Shows You so that you don't miss out on any future content. And I hope that you'll give me a thumbs up for this tutorial. It will really help me as I work on growing my channel. We'll see you next time.